Okay, I just want to do just a little video for a minute and not take long at all. I've just come out of a session with a wonderful client who's got a little Lhasa, and the little Lhasa is she's spent a lot of time just on a flat collar. She watches all my videos and things like that. I've seen her once before a while ago, and she's been taking a lot of time teaching it leash pressure, which is how to respond to the leash. And she's done so well. The dog now doesn't pull at all, except the dog is still a bit reactive. So if a jogger goes by, a cyclist, certain dogs, not all dogs, certain dogs, and there was something else as well, just some people as well walking by. So what we did is we and the client is disabled. She has a disability. She hasn't got the physical strength to say get the dog's attention, say with a touch, or and she can't bend down or anything like that, and certainly not in the time that was been needed to change the behaviour of the dog or to actually affect any change. So what we did is I taught her prong collar. Okay, so this is a prong collar. Okay, so the prong collar was created by vets, I believe, in the 60s. And what was happening is a lot of dogs were getting damaged by throat injuries, and it wasn't quite as bad as nowadays, which is everything totally namby-pamby and actually avoid the issue and just get a harness, which then just makes everything worse. It's avoidance, not actually training, and really confusing for the dog. So in the 60s, they were thinking, how can we have the dog understand not to pull better? And they created prong collars, so created by vets. And what they did is you have a centre plate on a prong collar. These are rounded, smooth prongs that are round. Now it looks like a barbaric torture device, and it does, but that's not reality. Just the same as, some people might look at a pit bull and go, oh, that's a baby killer, or that's this. That's just absolute ignorance. Or there's a Rottweiler, or there's a German Shepherd that's going to do this, or this is how that breed acts, and that dog is going to act like that. And that's just always said by people who have no clue what they're talking about. And it's the same for prong collars. So it's funny because I was at the client, and then the client's daughter, we had a good conversation. But she was saying, it's my mum's dog, and it's up to my mum what she does, but I'm not agreeing with you using zappers. Oh, I've heard of you using zappers. And I'm like, well, what's a zapper? I knew she was talking about remote collars, but that just says straight away ignorance. And I was holding in my hand while I'm waiting for the mum the prong collar, so the daughter is having like a heart attack, going, oh my goodness. But it's just absolute ignorance, okay? And I was trying to we did have the daughter of the client was very pleasant and nice, but the things that she was saying in her opinion, and she's absolutely entitled to her opinion, but her opinion was not based on fact. There was no evidence of fact to what she was saying, so she was ignorant. And what I was trying to say to her is, listen, what you do as a job, this daughter, I don't know anything about that, and if I'm judging and saying, well, my opinion is this, but I have no knowledge really, I've never tried it, or I've never experienced it, and I've never even watched it, I've read some articles, but I've never actually watched it, even on a video. I mean, I can have an opinion, but I wouldn't ever expect her to value my opinion, because it's not based on any evidence or fact, personal experience. So I was kind of saying the same thing to her, and she went away from that, I would imagine, still like, no, I hate you and I don't want you doing anything like that to the dog, but it's not my choice and I hate these tools. And the funny thing is, she says, oh, that's just negative reinforcement when you're using the zapper, so the remote collar. And it's the same with the prong collar, and it's the same with any way you teach a dog. You teach a dog, and in a way she was true, she didn't quite know what she was meaning, but what was reality is, you do, when you're teaching anything to a dog, you use negative reinforcement to positive reinforcement. So for example, I tell a dog to sit, the dog goes, what the heck does sit mean? So I push the bum down and the dog goes down, and as soon as the bum hits the floor, I release the pressure, so I let go and I go, good, and I give a treat. So that's jumping from negative reinforcement to positive reinforcement. Negative reinforcement, an example of negative reinforcement is I take my seatbelt off when I'm driving, and if I started driving now, then the car would start going ding, 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 ding. So that's put in there by manufacturers to allow me to use negative reinforcement. So that the negative reinforcement is I have the ability to remove that annoying dinging by putting my seatbelt into the buckle, and that makes me feel better. Reinforcement. So that's exactly the same as how we teach leash pressure. Any thing we want the body of the dog to do, we sit, stay, down, place, bed, come, recall, go. We use negative reinforcement to positive reinforcement. So when the dog realizes that it has the leash on, so that even the flat collar, the prong collar, whatever you're using, it doesn't matter, but the dog feels the pressure, and very, very light pressure, but the dog goes, okay, how do I get rid of this pressure? So as soon as the dog turns and comes to me, I release the pressure and go, good job! And I do positive reinforcement, which is where I'm adding something to reinforce behavior. So it could be a verbal marker, it could be food, it could be a toy, it could be petting a dog. So that's exactly the same as how you teach the prong collar. The best way to teach leash pressure is through a prong collar, okay? Because the prong collar, instead of being a flat surface that the dog leans against, there are these prongs, and they don't dig in and hurting the dog, just absolute nonsense. But what they do is they apply a different type of pressure than the dog is used to. So the dog feels this sort of pressure and goes, oh, that's different. But what it naturally wants to do is move away from that pressure that the dog has caused. But as soon as it does that, I also pay the dog. I'm like, high five, well done. So I don't get paid every time I put my seatbelt on. I just get reinforced by, well, in a way I do. I get to drive, I get to live my life freely. So that in itself is a reinforcement. But the prong collar, by the way it moves and communicates to the dog, is far more effective than using a flat collar. Especially if you've got a dog that already doesn't understand leash pressure, so they're maybe already a puller, they've maybe been on a harness or something like that. They've already learned that a flat surface, I keep going. So the prong is just a great tool to introduce to kind of change that behavior really quickly. And you do the exact same when you're using a remote collar. Remote collar is the dog is off leash and they're over there, and they've got generally a long line on while we're giving direction through the long line. And I tap the dog with the remote collar. And the tapping is very gentle, very subtle, but the dog doesn't know what it is. So when the tapping happens, I want the dog to learn to remove that. I want the dog to learn to remove that feeling that it has, this pressure. And the dog, as soon as the dog first of all reacts or moves towards me, I remove the pressure and add positive reinforcement. Good job, yes. So I become the helper of that dog. We teach the dog how to escape the pressure. And repetition of that, you do that within a few minutes, to be honest. You're tapping before you can even say, come here. The dog's like coming over and you're like, yeah, that was the right choice, well done. And it's all through a reinforcement-based foundation. So people are going about, oh, there's, you can do far more positive ways of training or use only positive reinforcement. Anybody that says that, first of all, doesn't have a clue about operant conditioning or the science of how we train. No, it's not just training dogs, it's training humans. How anyone is trained is what we call operant conditioning. I could do a separate video about that, or you could just go on Google and type in operant conditioning and learn about that. But that's the reality. So it was just so funny how this client's daughter was so obviously disagreed with what I do. But then I said, listen, just come and watch, come and see, and then just make up your mind. Dogs don't lie, so let's see how your dog reacts. And she didn't. So, if that was me and I was really concerned about something, I really didn't like it, and I really felt I had an opinion on it, I would be, making a point of observing. But you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So, just wanted to give you that little video about how we teach leash pressure, understanding about reinforcement and negative and positive reinforcement, and in particular prong collar. Prong collar, most gentle, subtle tool to have on your dog to teach, to communicate. Your goal is to have as little physical pressure to have the most psychological control. That's the reality. Okay.